I'm just gonna come right out and say it. When I had my first child, I felt like a part of me died. I think a lot of people would physically cringe when hearing that. They'd probably think, oh my God, what kind of a mother would say something like that? And honestly, for a long time, I agreed with them. I thought something was wrong with me for feeling that way after having Jake and even after I had Ben. I'm in a really, really great place now, but I didn't just magically land there. It took me years to feel like myself again, to accept this new phase in my life. Because truthfully, all the joys of motherhood don't come flooding in the first moment you look at your newborn. They come piece by piece. It's a journey, an adventure. I'm Valeria, and if you felt like you lost yourself when you became a mom, you're not alone. In this episode, I'm talking with the one and only Jessica Alba. Hello, Jessica Alba.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have this chat with you.
So am I. I have no idea what I'm in for. I just trust you.
I didn't want to give you too much, because this is a very raw conversation between two mothers. So we're just gonna get into it. But before we do, can you please, not that it's needed, but can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
So, yes, I'm Jessica Alba. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an actress. It's my side hustle. Used to be my main hustle. I have 3 kids. I like to cook. I'm a very creative person. I like to travel a lot. I come from a pretty middle class kind of background, and I sort of manifested a life for myself at a very early age. I started working at 12 and, helped sort of contribute to the household income with my family. And I feel like I kind of grew up a little fast, but I don't know. I think I wouldn't change anything because I feel like my kids, at the end of the day, like once it's all said and done, my kids are my sort of my mirror or like the litmus test that, is it all worth it, and did it all sort of turn out okay? And they're excellent. So, even with all the things that make them, they're awesome, and I wouldn't change anything.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly why I wanted to chat specifically with you, because this episode is all about modern motherhood. And the reason why I'm saying modern is because for me personally, on my motherhood journey, I feel like the definition of it and how I approached it changed so much. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk more with you about. With your first child, how was the experience? Do you feel like you were able to bring to life all these ideas and, expectations that you had?
When I became a mom, I finally felt grounded. I felt like I finally felt like I stood in my power, and I understood what it meant to be a woman and what that energy was. The word sex or sexy or being a sexual person was attached to me in a lot of ways when I was growing up in entertainment. But there was such a disconnect for me in owning what that meant for me. It always was sort of like this gross, icky, shameful, weird, bizarre thing that I put in a little box and compartmentalized as like, okay, this is just how they sell stuff, and I'm part of selling something.
Right.
But it's not who I really am. And I really started to understand or own myself as a woman, and everything, all that divine feminine energy really started to come forward when I became a mom.
It's so amazing because I wanted to talk a little bit about my own personal experience when I became a mother for the first time. It's beautiful to hear your journey. I felt I had the complete opposite kind of journey because it sounds like you found your identity while I struggled a bit with losing my identity when I became a mother for the first time. I had my first when I was 22, so I don't even know what identity I'm speaking of exactly that I lost, because 22, I don't even know what that is. But it was a bit, it was interesting. Like, I didn't realize that I was mourning a little bit. It was a bit of a grief period for me to understand that I'm at this other stage in my life. Did you experience any of that?
I did, yeah, because I had this other persona or person who's naturally, I don't think we want to be narcissists, but you kind of are. I think that the natural state of not having to really think about anyone, keeping anyone else alive is what you feel before you have kids. And, you know, I think I definitely had, I would say it took me a full year to transition from the sort of the old me had to die and for there to be like the seed that was sort of like put into the ground, and then the flower starting to bloom. I didn't see the bud of the flower maybe until a year after I had Honor. So yeah, I was upside down. I was crying. I was sweating. I was leaking. I mean, all the things that happen to your body.
Just had like
and
a
I
whole...
also felt, you know, and,
Yeah.
and doesn't it feel like there's a hostile takeover? Like I felt like my body was like taken over by this alien that was just like feeding off of me and sucking the life out of me.
Yes,
and
literally.
it literally kind of is.
Okay, have you guys seen those star-shaped pimple patches all over your Instagram feed? That's Starface's Hydro Stars. They're made with 100% hydrocolloid, an ingredient that helps absorb fluid and reduce redness while shrinking your spot. They're also a cute little reminder to leave your skin alone. You can explore Starface in the US, UK, and Canada online at starface.world. That's starface.world. And you can save 15% on your next order with Build Your Own Bundle. Just add 2 or more products to your cart and your 15% discount will apply automatically at checkout. I remember when Jake was born and I was like holding him, this newborn, this thing just came out of me, and I was so scared. I was like, I do not feel this crazy like motherly instinct kicking in. I have no idea what I'm doing. Please don't send me home because I can't. I know. Leave me here. So, you know, culturally, I feel like maybe in society, the same way we have this like bounce back mentality physically, we very much have that bounce back mentality mentally.
Mentally, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was not okay for the first year, but it was interesting because you're right. No one really talks about the death of your old self and the birth of a new self, and that's a real metamorphosis. Like it's real. I guess that's the best way to kind of put it. I felt like I had family, like with her, with Honor, and with Cash. I was like, oh my God, I finally feel like I have this thing that I've been searching for, like home in a way. And I don't want to say that to hurt my parents' feelings, but I just always felt like I didn't belong or something. I didn't feel like I was part of their thing. And I was always sort of like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like my tribe. But with Honor, I finally felt like, oh, and with Cash, I was like, these are my people.
Yeah.
And I did feel a tremendous sense of responsibility, and that was scary because she really relied on me to be alive, and it was going to be really clear if I wasn't doing a good job. It was going to be like I couldn't even think about it, and so that was terrifying. How am I going to keep this person alive?
reminding all my beautiful listeners that you can check out Starface products in the US, UK, and Canada online at starface.world. And you can save 15% on your next order with Build Your Own Bundle. Just add 2 or more products to your cart, could be HydroStar pimple patches, skincare, or any of your Starface favorites, and your 15% discount will apply automatically at checkout. It's funny because we planned our second one, but I didn't think too much about it. I feel like my first was 10 months old, and I was like, okay, let's just do it. Without thinking what it, entails having another
so
human.
Close.
It's very close. What the hell I was thinking, I do not know. I'm
No
extremely
idea.
grateful now because now they're like 2 peas in a pod, and it's easier for us now. But it was kind of crazy, and I feel like I was also in this still trying to figure out my identity, because something that happened to me, and I don't know if you've experienced that, but something that happened to me was, once I realized, okay, I'm a mother, I also didn't necessarily want to throw myself completely into it, because I saw some people around me that moved from their own self-definition to completely identifying with motherhood. And I just felt like, whoa, I feel like they lost themselves in that a little bit, So
Yeah.
here's me, like barely trying to get my brain to work to understand that, okay, I have all these responsibilities and I'm a mother, and now here's a second one coming on the way, but yet I don't want to fully identify with just that one thing. And it made me feel like a really bad mom. It made me feel like something's wrong with me. Like, why is this not the reason I exist? Why is it not my whole being? Did you have any of those kind of thoughts? Or maybe not. Maybe it was just me. I'm okay at this point to be the crazy one.
No, I think that I think it's actually unhealthy to completely lose yourself in one thing. I think we're meant to be dimensional and multifaceted, and I think we're meant to have more than one person in our life, more than one relationship in our life, to create some kind of balance, because not one thing isn't going to fill every piece of you up, your relationship with your husband gives you something that your relationship with, frankly, each kid gives you something else. Your relationships with your homegirls, whoever it is, that they each give you something. And so I think if you try to put your work gives you something else, I actually think it's wild if the narrative that you need to be all one relationship is going to be enough for you in every way. And whether that is a relationship with a partner or a kid or all of your kids or work or a friendship. So I think it's the most sacred relationship really should be with yourself.
Yeah, I think we're definitely doing ourselves a disservice trying to, I myself experienced it, trying to make that one relationship be so perfect, because you are it now, this is your identity, if it's motherhood, and I think this is how you kind of get into this like helicopter parenting, or being this overburden of a partner, because you just try to be
or too much of a mom,
exactly right,
it's
you're
like
trying to do the
you don't
most.
Let them breathe. You don't.
So it's like we're sabotaging ourselves either way. And them obviously as a result.
Yeah, but there is a lot of like judgy stuff out there that makes you feel like you need to be completely is like immersed in motherhood. And I think that motherhood to me is one piece, but it's not all of it. And there's it's a major chunk. It's like if my heart was walking around outside of my body, it is all 3 of my kids. That's the truth. And that will always be, but I still have like other organs.
Right. I love that. When did that realization come to you? I mean, it sounds like you are very aware of this, that right place for you in terms of identity to be dimensional and to have all these different things going for you. Did you just know it
No, it's
right
learning
away? Like
along the
what was?
way. I think it's learning along the way and experiencing pain and
Mm-hmm.
unpacking a lot of my hangups and my lessons and my what I identify as like trauma. Now I look at as blessings, things that were the resistance and the contrast that I experienced through my life in order for me to come out the other side and be who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
so little of it, it feels like you're always trying to move towards a goal, but so little of life is about the goal, and it's actually all about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how are you going to operate inside of the hardest, most difficult, most challenging times is really who you are as a person. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know how good your marriage is when shit hits the fan
Yeah.
and the world is like falling apart around you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you really know how good your marriage is. It's not when you guys are like, you know, shitting rainbows before you have
Right.
kids and going out and living your very best life.
Right.
Sorry, that's not it.
I
It's when
know.
you haven't slept and you're leaking and you don't feel like yourself and you haven't put on real clothes in 4 days.
That's where the magic is.
That's the magic. That's when you really know what your relationship's made of.
Let's talk about parenting, because I feel like with parenting, it's a tough one. I feel like
It's very
Mo-
humbling, isn't it?
yes, motherhood is one thing, parenting is a whole other thing. And
Yeah.
I think that it's
Oh,
important to touch on that point. I wonder how your view of motherhood is reflected in the way you parent.
I sometimes intertwine the two a little too much, and I feel like Cash has a great way of pulling me out of my own sort of uh, martyrdom around it.
Mm,
Um, I think that I shoulder the poor me stuff and look what I do and look what I did and da 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 and all the sacrifice and yada yada yada.
mhm.
Um, and like the kids don't care, they just don't. And I don't know if they'll ever love me as much as I love them.
The
And
answer
it's
is
like
no.
so sad to even think that it's such a one-sided relationship in a lot of ways. So then parenting. So then you're like, then what's parenting? And if you can detach from all of your hang-ups or martyrdom or stuff of what it means for you to be a mother, and you can
Mhm.
just think about what structure, infrastructure do these kids need, and feedback and sounding board and boundaries and guardrails, whatever these things are, all of it's just so they could thrive.
Right.
And what does thriving mean, or what does thriving look like? And for me, when I see my kids, when they operate not being self-aware, but with with a joy that feels almost like a reckless abandon, like a just a completely true, intuitive self. Like when they feel like it's time to cry because this thing upsets them and they cry, or when they feel like just
Mm,
giggling and laughing, they just laugh. And when they feel like just taking a nap or resting or sitting in the sun, they do that. Or when they feel like skipping, they do that. And when they feel like they are in the zone, we're in the flow. I don't know how else to describe it. That's when I know they're okay. And I guess my parenting is just meant to try and help give them as much space so that can exist for as long as possible, and for them
mm.
to stay tapped into that, being almost like at one with themselves and with nature and life, so they can just be.
I want to talk about how you've been moving between these roles. I mean, building the career that you've built, raising the children, the relationship, friendships, like all the things. Do you feel like there was guilt involved? And if yes, how do you move past that guilt?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think for so much of my life, I would say there's no such thing as balance. It's for the birds. Anyone who asks that question obviously is living in la la land. Like, what are we even talking about? And I always was really irritated that at every business conference I was asked about balance, and I never heard a man ever asked about balance at a business conference. So
So
it's
true.
like, why is that not something you ask every guy that comes
Mhm.
up on the stage? Um, and I think that I'm not sure what gene or what genetically is attached to guilt, but
Mhm.
I think guilt is something that keeps us connected to our kids to even want to show up and make sure that they are okay. And I'm not sure if guys are born with the same thing. I don't know. I don't know if it's just a female thing and that's why we get asked that, because I feel like balance is attached to, and the idea of balance is attached to um, how we deal with guilt and the
Mhm.
guilt of doing anything other than our entire world revolving around our kids.
So when guilt shows up for you now, how do you look at it? How did it reframe itself from what it used to be?
It used to swallow me up,
Mm.
and it felt like this endless pool, this like a black hole that would swallow me up, and it felt like just this bottomless pit. And I think now it's when I feel like I'm feeding my soul and I feel like I'm being true to what that is, it then gives me room to have the context or the perspective on the relationships that I have. Similar
Mhm.
to what Eckhart Tolle was saying, you naturally get yourself in a state of having context and perspective. And then you can see your kids and their souls and their highest self and what they really need. And are you meeting them in a sincere and genuine and pure way that's really meaningful to them in this moment? And then that's where you can kind of figure out your equilibrium with did it take the feeling of guilt to get you there?
Mhm.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes you just need it. You just need it. For me, when I feel an overwhelming amount of negative feelings, it just means I haven't been listening to
Right.
or
It's more like
connecting
a
to
cue.
myself. It's more of a cue.
I love that. Jessica,
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like after this interview, I'm gonna sit and like be with that answer for a little bit because I really like how you reframed guilt. I think it would help a lot of women to look at it in a different way and to get it to be a tool rather than a negative emotion that consumes you.
Mm.
I really appreciate that. That's beautiful. Jessica, where can our listeners find you and what do you have coming up next?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram under my name, TikTok. My TikTok name, though, I think is Yo Mama.
It is your mama. I love it.
It is Yo Mama. Um, and I actually did an unscripted show with my BFF Lizzie Mathis called
Hmm.
Honest Renovations, and it's for Roku, and it's coming out in the summer. And we really transform some amazing families' lives with, updating and renovating spaces in their homes. And they're all going through a parenting conundrum that we get to help solve through um, these renovations. And I'm really
I
proud of the show.
I love that. Okay, so when is that coming out?
It's coming out in August. End of summer.
It's end of summer,
Honest
August.
Renovations.
I
Look
love
out
it.
for it. And yeah, I have a Netflix movie where I get to kick ass, take down some white supremacy,
Ooh.
just do a little bit of that, sort of like a modern Western. And that was really fun to do. I had a great time on that. So I have that coming out. And then check out honest.com. We always have amazing products that we're launching. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Jessica.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
If I'm being honest, getting to wear a cute little star on your face really changes the whole experience with breaking out. Starface is revolutionizing the acne care industry with first-of-its-kind decorative pimple patches that turn breakouts into moments of self-expression. They have a full range of Hydro-Star pimple patches for whatever mood you're in. There's a classic yellow, a colorful multi-pack, a solid black, and a blue star with salicylic acid. Check them out online at starface.world in the US, UK, and Canada. That's starface.world. And you can save 15% on your next order with Build Your Own Bundle. Just add 2 or more products to your cart and your 15% discount will apply automatically at checkout.